For as long as I can remember, I've always been the kind of person who believes that hard work pays off. I grew up with a deep sense of ambition, always wanting to be more than just another face in the crowd. When I landed my job at the marketing firm, it felt like a dream come true. I worked tirelessly to prove myself, putting in late nights, volunteering for extra projects, and constantly striving to exceed expectations. The next big step was the promotion that was coming up. I had my eye on the position of senior marketing manager, and everything in my career had been leading to this moment. It wasn't just a job for me, it was the culmination of years of dedication. I had been the go-to person for difficult campaigns, and my manager often praised me for my leadership on multiple successful projects. At the office, I was known for my work ethic, my passion for creative strategies, and my ability to rally the team under pressure. All my colleagues agreed I was the most qualified person for the promotion. But it wasn't just the promotion itself that excited me. It was what it represented: recognition for all the sacrifices I had made. No more long hours balancing work and a personal life that often felt non-existent. I imagined how my life would change when I had more influence in the company, how my paycheck would grow, and how I could finally achieve the stability I'd been working toward. This was going to be my moment. I wasn't alone in hoping for the promotion, though. There was Sarah, a colleague and good friend who had been with the company a little longer than me. Sarah and I had always had a friendly rivalry. We shared similar ambitions and often found ourselves competing for the same projects. While we respected each other's work ethic, there was an unspoken sense of competition between us, one that added fuel to my drive. If anyone understood the importance of this promotion to me, it was Sarah. And if anyone could take it from me, it was her. As the weeks passed, the excitement in the office was palpable. My colleagues and I exchanged theories on who would get the promotion. We joked about how we would celebrate, assuming it was going to be one of us. But deep down, I had no doubts it was going to be me. After all, I had worked the hardest. I had sacrificed the most. This was my time. Then, the announcement came. My heart raced as I prepared myself for the moment that would change everything. The day of the announcement arrived. I had spent the entire week preparing for what I believed was the inevitable. I had reviewed all my recent projects, double-checked my presentation, and even mentally rehearsed how I would approach the new role once I was officially promoted. My confidence was unwavering. After all, I had put in the hours, I had exceeded expectations, and everyone in the office knew it. This was my moment. I walked into the conference room, a slight buzz of excitement swirling around the air. The rest of the team was already seated, murmuring amongst themselves. I took my usual seat near the front, hoping that my calm demeanor would reflect my certainty. The meeting began, and my boss, Rachel, stood at the front with a folder in her hand. I could already feel the tension building in the room as she smiled at us all. There was an air of professionalism in the way she spoke, but there was something else there too, a subtle edge of finality. She began by acknowledging everyone's hard work, how much the company had grown, and how impressed she was with the dedication of the team. Then came the moment that made my stomach twist. Rachel turned to face the team, a tall, hanging on the wall before she finally spoke the words I had been waiting for. The new senior marketing manager was a Sarah, a tiny sense of strength. My breath caught in my throat as a shockwave of disbelief coursed through my body. It wasn't me. Sarah? It couldn't be. The words echoed in my mind, but they felt muffled, as if my brain was refusing to process what had just been said. I looked around the room, hoping to find some explanation, some sign that this was a mistake, that Rachel would turn to me next and say, "I'm sorry, I meant you." But it didn't happen. The applause from my colleagues seemed distant, muffled, and almost suffocating. I could feel my face flush, a mix of embarrassment, confusion, and frustration sweeping over me. Sarah, for all her competence, hadn't worked nearly as hard as I had. She wasn't even close. I had seen her slack off during some crucial campaigns, taking shortcuts and leaning on me when she needed help. I had been the one driving the team forward, always picking up the slack and leading from the front. So, why did she get it instead of me? I forced a smile as Sarah stood up, her face lighting up with genuine joy as she walked to the front of the room. She looked at me briefly, and I saw a flash of guilt in her eyes. I forced myself to clap, but it felt hollow, as though my body was moving without my mind's permission. My hands tingled with frustration, and my chest tightened as I realized that the moment I had worked so hard for, the dream I had cultivated for so long, was slipping through my fingers. When the meeting ended, I stood up mechanically, my mind reeling. I had to fight back the tears, the rage, the crushing sense of betrayal. How could this happen? How could someone who hadn't even put in half the effort I had get the job? I wasn't just disappointed. I was hurt, deeply hurt, not just by the decision, but by the fact that Rachel had chosen someone who didn't deserve it, not when I had given so much of myself to the company. I felt the sting of disappointment like a physical wound. I walked back to my desk in a daze, the noise of the office blurring around me. I couldn't focus on anything. My eyes were locked on the glowing screen of my computer, but all I could see was Sarah standing there, smiling, as if this promotion was a natural result of her hard work. My heart raced, and my stomach twisted in knots. The anger that followed was cold, like a storm slowly gathering within me. I didn't know who to be angry at, myself, my boss, or Sarah. But one thing was clear: this wasn't just a setback. It felt like a betrayal. The next few hours passed in a haze of numbness. I couldn't concentrate on anything, and every time someone congratulated Sarah, it felt like a knife twisting deeper into my side. But the worst part, it wasn't just the injustice of it all. It was the fact that I had let myself believe for so long that I was destined for this promotion, that all my sacrifices, all my dedication, would be recognized. But they weren't. As the day wore on, I tried to compose myself. I didn't want to show weakness. I didn't want anyone to see how much this hurt. So I buried my feelings. But the weight of the disappointment was unbearable. I knew that I had to do something, but in that moment, I had no idea what that something was. Then, as I was packing up my things to leave the office, a mysterious package arrived on my desk. It was small, wrapped in plain brown paper with no return address. My first instinct was to ignore it, but something told me that this package would hold the answer I was looking for. As I sat at my desk, the quiet hum of the office around me felt suffocating. My thoughts were a whirlwind, tangled between the hurt I felt from the promotion and the unanswered questions about what had gone wrong. I hadn't spoken to anyone all afternoon. I just sat there, mindlessly scrolling through emails, trying to distract myself from the gnawing ache in my chest. The fact that Sarah had been chosen someone who, in my eyes, didn't even come close to deserving it kept playing over and over in my head. That's when it arrived. A small, plain brown package was sitting on my desk. There was no return address, no markings, nothing to indicate where it had come from. It was as if it had appeared out of nowhere. I stared at it for a moment, unsure of what to make of it. It didn't seem to belong to any of my colleagues, and it certainly didn't look like something from HR. My curiosity piqued. I hesitated for only a second before I reached out and carefully lifted it from the desk. I shook it lightly. There was no sound of something loose rattling inside, no hint of its contents. The packaging was simple, unremarkable, almost like it had been intentionally left as inconspicuous as possible. But something about it, something in the way it had just appeared, set off a faint alarm in the back of my mind. I was about to open it when I heard footsteps approaching. It was Rachel, my boss. She had walked by my desk a few times that day, her face still warm with the pride of having announced Sarah's promotion. I knew she had probably been congratulated by everyone already, but she still lingered in the office, a sense of nervous energy around her. As she passed my desk, her eyes caught the package, and for a brief moment, I saw something strange in her expression. It was only a flicker, but it was enough to make me pause. "You get a delivery?" she asked casually, though her tone seemed a little too casual. I wasn't sure if she was asking out of genuine interest or because she wanted to seem unconcerned. Either way, I nodded without saying much. "Just a random package," I replied, holding it up slightly. not sure who it's from. Rachel offered a small smile and nodded before continuing on her way. But the unease that settled in my gut only grew stronger. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something off about this package, and perhaps, just maybe, it was connected to the whirlwind of emotions I had been feeling all day. I hadn't felt right about Rachel's decision regarding Sarah, and now, this odd package seemed like it was somehow linked to the whole situation. I wasted no more time. The curiosity was overwhelming. I tore the wrapping paper open carefully, almost instinctively trying to preserve the neatness of it, despite how I felt inside. Inside the package was a small, plain envelope. My fingers shook slightly as I picked it up, the weight of what I was about to discover weighing heavily on me. I opened the envelope slowly, my breath catching as I pulled out a single piece of paper. The note was short but precise. "The truth is hidden in plain sight. Look closer, and you'll see who really earned the promotion." I blinked at the note, the words sinking in. What was this supposed to mean? The cryptic message sent a chill down my spine. It was clearly meant for me. But why? What truth was I supposed to be looking for? Was this some sort of game? I stared at the note for a long moment, trying to make sense of it. I glanced around the office, my eyes lingering on the people working nearby, each of them lost in their tasks. But something about the note made me feel like I was missing something obvious. There was a deeper layer to this situation that I wasn't seeing. The more I thought about it, the more I began to wonder if someone else knew something that I didn't, something about the promotion, Sarah, and maybe even Rachel's involvement in it all. What had happened in those weeks leading up to the decision? What had I missed? The note seemed to suggest there was more to this story than I'd realized, and I needed to dig deeper if I ever hoped to get to the truth. It wasn't just a random package. It was a clue, something that was meant to guide me toward the answers I was searching for. I couldn't shake the feeling that my world was about to be turned upside down, that this small envelope would lead me to revelations I had never imagined. And so, I made a decision in that moment I would get to the bottom of this, no matter what it took. There was no turning back now. The days following the arrival of the mysterious package were filled with a tension I couldn't shake. Each time I walked into the office, I felt the weight of the note in my mind, urging me to look deeper, to question what had seemed so straightforward. I kept replaying the words, "The truth is hidden in plain sight. Look closer, and you'll see who really earned the promotion." But what did that mean? Who had truly earned the promotion? And why was I being pulled into this cryptic mystery? I started noticing things I hadn't before. Subtle gestures, quiet conversations behind closed doors. I found myself observing Rachel with a new, almost paranoid awareness. She was the same as ever on the surface, calm, collected, always the professional. But there were moments, small ones, when her mask slipped. I caught her talking on the phone one afternoon, her voice low and urgent, a sense of frustration hidden beneath her usually smooth demeanor. When she saw me pass by, she quickly ended the call, a little too quickly, and turned to face me with a forced smile. It was as if she was hiding something. Then there was Sarah. Her promotion had been swift, almost too easy. There was no real competition, or so I thought. But looking back, I realized I hadn't truly questioned it before. Sarah had always been competent, yes, but the promotion seemed to come out of nowhere, a decision made with little fanfare. Now, I wondered, was there more to Sarah's success than met the eye? Was she as innocent in this as she seemed? One afternoon, my curiosity got the best of me, and I decided to confront Rachel. I couldn't ignore the gnawing feeling any longer. There were too many unanswered questions, too many inconsistencies in her behavior. My heart raced as I approached her office. I stood at the door for a moment, taking a deep breath before knocking softly. Rachel looked up, her eyes widening slightly when she saw me standing there. "Oh, hi. Your name?" "What's up?" she asked. But there was an edge to her voice now, a hint of something that hadn't been there before. I need to talk to you. I said, my voice steady despite the storm of emotions brewing inside me. It's about the promotion. There's something I don't understand, something that feels off. Her smile faltered for just a second before she regained her composure. What do you mean? The decision was made. Sarah was the best choice. I shook my head, trying to keep my voice calm. No, it's not just about that. It's about everything. The way things were handled, the timing, the way you've been acting recently. I don't think it was as straightforward as you're making it seem. Something's not right. Rachel shifted uncomfortably in her chair, her eyes darting to the papers on her desk. She seemed to hesitate for a moment before letting out a sigh. Look, your name? I didn't want you to find out like this, but I owe you an explanation. I've been meaning to tell you, but I wasn't sure how. My heart skipped a beat. The truth was coming, and I could feel the ground beneath me shifting. Sarah's promotion wasn't just about her performance, Rachel admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. There were other factors. I made a deal with her to secure her success. She didn't exactly earn it in the way you think. The words hung in the air like a weight, suffocating me. My mind raced to process what she had just said. A deal? What kind of deal? And how did I fit into all of this? Rachel leaned forward, her gaze intense now. I know this is hard to hear, but I promised Sarah the promotion if she helped me out with something I couldn't do on my own. It wasn't just about her ability to do the job. It was about keeping things under control, making sure certain things stayed quiet. A cold shiver ran down my spine. What was she talking about? What had she gotten herself involved in? Before I could speak, Rachel raised a hand. I know what you're thinking, but you have to understand this wasn't just about power. It was about survival. There were people involved that you wouldn't understand. People who can't be crossed. I stared at her, speechless, trying to grasp the magnitude of her confession. The pieces were falling into place, but I wasn't sure I wanted to know where this puzzle would lead. How much do you know? Rachel asked, her voice barely audible. What have you figured out? It was my turn to stay silent. I didn't know the full story yet, but I knew enough to understand that my world, everything I had worked for, had been built on lies. In the aftermath of the confrontation with Rachel, everything felt different. The office wasn't the same, and neither was I. The promotion I had worked so hard for had slipped through my fingers, but what stung more than the loss was the realization that my trust had been betrayed. Rachel's words echoed in my mind, people who can't be crossed. The truth about Sarah's promotion, the shady deal behind it, had shattered my perception of the company, of my colleagues, and even of myself. It felt like everything I had worked for had been built on a foundation of lies. Yet, after that day, something began to shift inside me. I could have let the bitterness consume me. I could have held on to the anger, the disappointment, and the hurt. But I realized that doing so would only hold me back. I wasn't going to let this betrayal define me. I refused to be a victim of circumstance. I started by reflecting on what I had learned from the whole experience. First, I realized that I had been chasing the wrong kind of success. The kind of success that was based on climbing over others, proving myself worthy through competitions and promotions. But at what cost? The game I had been playing wasn't the one that would lead me to true fulfillment. I had been so focused on that one promotion that I lost sight of what really mattered: my integrity, my values, and the kind of work environment I wanted to thrive in. That's when I decided to take a step back and reevaluate my goals. The truth about the company and my colleagues had hurt, but it also gave me clarity. I wanted to work somewhere that aligned with my principles, a place where my efforts and talents could be recognized and rewarded fairly. I wasn't going to let anyone, especially Rachel or Sarah, dictate my future. The situation had forced me to redefine what success meant to me. In the weeks that followed, I shifted my focus. Instead of competing with everyone around me, I chose to work on strengthening the skills that truly mattered. I started seeking out mentors, building stronger relationships, and putting my energy into projects that made me proud. The mystery package had opened my eyes to a deeper truth. Success isn't just about promotions or titles. It's about feeling good about the work you do and the person you become in the process. I also realized that letting go of resentment was key to moving forward. Holding on to grudges only held me back. It wasn't easy. There were days when I felt angry, when I felt betrayed, but I learned that forgiveness wasn't about excusing what had happened. It was about freeing myself from the grip of negativity. And as for Rachel and Sarah, I no longer felt the same about them. I didn't need to be their enemy, but I also didn't need to allow their actions to have power over me. I was determined to create a new chapter for myself, one where I could thrive on my own terms. The road ahead was still uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful. The mysterious package had revealed the truth, and in doing so, it had set me free. I was no longer defined by my past disappointments. I was ready for a new beginning, armed with the lessons I had learned and a renewed sense of purpose.